Welcome to the Marathon Marketing Moment. In these podcasts, we share information, creativity, and ideas to help you improve you and your business so you can be more profitable. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Weber with Marathon Press. Today, I have a very special guest with me today, Lori Nordstrom. Lori is from Truro, Iowa, and she has been a longtime PPA member, much like myself. And she's been speaking and doing programs for about all her life, I'd say, almost. Lori has been in business since she was 16, so she's got a lot of experience. But more importantly, Lori is one of those talented educators that, if you've ever heard her speak, she is so good about not only entertaining you, but also her materials that she provides as a handout are so helpful. They're very organized, very helpful even after you leave, and you can fill out some things. So if you've ever attended Lori's class or seen her, you know what I'm talking about. She's also been featured in some of the PPA podcasts and things that they've done and interviews. She's got her master's and her craftsman and certified professional photographer degrees. So Lori is one of those high achievers, and I really always enjoy whatever we get a chance to speak. And I invited her to be on the program today. And by the way, I want to mention too, Lori is also an author, and there's not too many photographers out there that have that ability to write. But Lori's got a really good book called Maximizing Profits, a Practical Guide for Portrait Photographers. So if you're kind of struggling with business and marketing and whatnot as a photographer, check that out on Amazon. It's a really great read. So Lori, I want to welcome you. Welcome to our podcast today.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. What I want to get into today, because we're in the summer months here, and it's always hard to focus on, thinking of the family fall market, that type of product line. And not everybody does families, but I don't know about you, but I think that's something that they should.
I 100% agree. Anytime somebody says, yeah, I don't really photograph families, I always want to ask, why not? The market is so wide open, and no matter what you photograph, it's a really great, just another profit center for your business. So whether you're photographing babies, those babies grow up and turn into kids and turn into families, or you photograph high school seniors, it's a really great product to add into your senior line. And if you're photographing weddings, what better way to start training your clients than right from the very beginning? If they've come to you for a wedding and they've spent good money at their wedding, which normally they will, why not be sending a letter out for their first year anniversary saying, hey, it's almost your anniversary. It's a year later. I would love to photograph you guys and just capture your love story as it is a year later. And then we start training those clients to come in year after year as their family grows and it changes, and their love does change over year. And so getting to be able to photograph those stories as they unfold is really something is special. And in family photography, we can do that.
That's great advice. I find too that the most common mistake most photographers make is that they kind of delay planning for their campaign. And that's something that I think, it's not too early now. It's summertime. We're not really in that mode of planning sometimes for the fourth quarter. How and what do you recommend for people? How early should they start planning for their marketing campaign for fall families?
Yeah, well, I think marketing in general, I like to stay a quarter ahead. And that doesn't mean waiting until March to start planning for second quarter, but it means always staying 3 months ahead in my planning and in my marketing. And those things can evolve and change as we go. You're never like set in stone, but when you've got that initial plan laid out, then we don't let things fall behind. And I learned that the hard way. Learned that the hard way with lots of great ideas. And then when I didn't get those ideas planned out, I would see the date come and go and say, oh, shoot, I didn't do that. Or we would get, in the really busy years, even getting into fall, the fourth quarter, and being very busy, but it not being managed at all. And realizing that even in the busyness, I was still leaving money on the table because I hadn't planned specific events and specific even protocols for when people should be coming in, when orders should be placed, so that I wasn't working on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yep.
So, just staying ahead. And then I think it's really, really important as well, even as we're planning our fall promotions, to also plan those cutoff dates and plan and manage first quarter as we're even in the busy seasons now, because first quarter is usually when the studio business, the portrait business at least, kind of dies. And so having those other opportunities like family portraits, like personal branding, some of these other things that we can plug in to those slower months is really, really important.
When did you kind of target your first promotional piece, if you will, about asking families to come in and consider you for their family photography?
Oh, that's a good question. And if my brain would work, I could maybe think about the first promotion. But I know, for many, many years, I specialized in kids. And and then it kind of shifted, and I was really known for maternity and baby, and got so niched in maternity and baby that I was like, I'm missing out on those kids that I love because I'm so niched in this, and I was busy. And so we started some specific campaigns for kids, and some specific events for kids. And then those always, anytime I do an event in my business, I want it to always have a lead into what's next, because a percentage of those clients will be the right fit for our full experience portrait sessions. And that's typically going to be a family portrait session. So I always want to have those plans for that. But I think the first time that I really put together an actual campaign, so to speak, with all the bells and whistles, start to finish, with real planning, was at a time when we were always had very busy falls. And I did have a Christmas where I literally worked on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I was delivering stuff, packaging stuff, getting people their things at the last minute. And I went back home that Christmas Day, and I was like, this is the last time that I will be working this hard to make everyone else's Christmas merry and not here with my family. And so started putting real plans in place from that point forward, so that we could really manage what was coming in. And at the end of the day, I talk a lot about profit, and I don't ever want anybody to think, all she cares about is the money. And no, that's not true. I care about all the other pieces, but if we're not profitable, we can't stay passionate about our business and really making an impact with the business that we have. So the money is important. The profit is important. And so long answer to that question, but I think my first campaign that was actual, not for an event or something like that, but just to kind of manage a season, was after that year. And it was many, many years ago, but that year we started a thankful campaign. And that was around the Thanksgiving season, and started that early. One of the other things that we did was we started calling all of our clients. So I like to look back at my last 3 years of business. And of course, our 3 last years have been a little wonky. So maybe you want to take 5. But I like to look at least 3 years worth of data, and who did I love working with, who spent well, who's referred other people. And so really kind of digging into those top 20 percenters in my business and making personal phone calls to them and saying, hey, it's Lori. And, I haven't seen you guys in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Our fall season gets booked up very quickly, and I would love to get you guys scheduled in on the calendar. If you would like to be photographed, I really would love to photograph you again this year. So if you want to, let's get you scheduled now. And so that was a way to pre-book the calendar, and that worked really well. And so I started doing that again in January every year, so that we would start looking at what our year looked like and planning advance a little in that way. And then putting campaigns together for around Thanksgiving. Let's get your cards done. at Thanksgiving and start a new tradition in this way, develop some other products that were tradition-based products. But I wanted people to get their cards done, me to get their cards done and out of the way, with a message that was something like, we're grateful for you and wanted to let you know before the busyness of the Christmas season. And so starting this new tradition around that. So a bulk of it gets moved forward a little bit. And then also getting consistent about asking people when they call, are we going to be doing Christmas cards? Are we going to be doing anything for Christmas gifts? Is there anything that you need before that date? And if the answer is no to those things, let's book them in January.
There you go.
Right. And
Yeah.
and book up some of that slower time, and then be able to fit somebody in that can, that needs something for Christmas. So a couple of different things around that, but I do now definitely believe in the campaign process as far as, we need to put time on our calendar to actually do all the planning. We need to have time on the calendar to create all of our pieces, decide who we're going to network with, how we're going to get the word out. We need time to plan pricing or any pieces that we need on the studio side for executing that campaign. And then, of course, delivering marketing, how we're going to get that the news out to the different partnerships we've decided that we're going to work with, or other well-connected moms, or whatever that looks like. But so there's several different pieces that actually have to get put on the calendar, and it doesn't have to they don't all have to be separately planned. They just all have to be planned. And so sometimes a campaign might be, you might sit down and knock it out in a day or two. But other times you may look at your calendar and say, nope, I can only spend an hour on this day or an hour on this day. But getting it on the calendar and planning your plan is crucial, I believe, to the success of any particular campaign.
Touched on so many great things there, Lori. One was that personal contact with your VIP clients. That is so key because they already know and love you. They're the easiest people to get back in the studio with you. So I love that. Also, as you look at the content of your marketing campaign and just the materials itself, I know that's one of the things a lot of photographers struggle with is what do you put in the words for social media, who you network with? What is your marketing mix and what is your message and content with that?
Well, it's interesting, the question around that. Years ago, I've I have spent a lot of time in business coaching myself, like being coached, and business leadership programs. I have a John Maxwell certification. I've done all the things. And when you're doing business training outside of this industry, we always hear that when you sell, you're solving our problem. And I used to sit there and think, I'm a photographer. What problems do I solve?
Yes.
All right. And, but when you start breaking that down and really thinking about it as photographers, what problems do we solve? We're photographing families or kids or seniors or weddings, whatever you're photographing, even sports and schools. It's a pivotal moment in someone's life. It's a milestone. It's a memory. That's what we're capturing and creating for our clients, is a memory and a moment. And another reason why I feel it's so important to really talk to moms about each individual in their family, who they are, what they represent, what their relationships are together, what their personalities are. We want to be able to photograph and capture all those things, and that is what sells. And so if we can use those types of word in our marketing, another flip side of that I like to use in marketing is, I want to sell for the wall. I want to sell wall portraits for the home. And so using those kinds of that kind of language in your marketing around, seeing what's most valuable to you every single day, having these images in your home for you to see and relive and bring back this moment in time. I want you to see and experience this moment every single day. And even using that language around high school seniors, I want to ask moms, where do you sit in the morning? Where do you spend time? Where are you going to be thinking about and praying for this daughter or this son when they're in college? And that's selling a wall portrait just by asking those questions, because we're going to plant that face right there.
Yes.
And then asking questions about uh, what they plan on doing with their daughter or son's room when they're off to college. And any answer they give is the right answer, because we can answer that with, oh my goodness, that is going to be the perfect place to hang a portrait of him or her, so that every time he comes home, he's going to remember and have this special place that was his for however many years. So that kind of language, I didn't give you a specific line, but I think we see a lot, celebrating moments or, things like that. And I think if we dig a little bit deeper and what really is the problem that we want to solve, and the biggest problem is stopping that time. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I want you to see this moment, these memories, this personality, this relationship. I want you to see that and have that forever and ever. And for now, I hope to replace it next year. But for now, we want you to be able to see that every single day and have those memories and those moments on the wall. And Mark, I know Marathon did years ago some research and some study around even the self-esteem that was elevated in a child when they saw portraits in the home. When they see those family portraits, especially, it really helps to solidify family and make them, not so fearful. I think many children are fearful of their family breaking up these days. Or even if it's not a conventional family, if it doesn't look quite, like, both mom and dad in the home or whatever, but it just gives them a sense of stability with the family that they have. And that self-esteem is just huge. And I use that research quite a lot, even just with photographing kids. If I'm doing a kids event, talking about, the product for kids events is portraits for their room, and talking about how secure that makes them feel and special it makes them feel to have those portraits of themselves representing this time in their life, who they are. And, us being able to capture that in photographs is really, really special.
Oh, I totally agree. It's funny you mention that because every year Jill and I and Kelly, we get together, have our family portrait made, and it's usually I do it. I get the two of them in there, and then I jump in there and have one of them take the picture of me. But it always turns out great, and we always have a great time doing it. And it's out of convenience that we do it because of where we end up going and whatnot. But what I have found is I feel sorry for people, families that don't do this on a regular basis, because every year we replace our portrait, and it is one of the great memories that we talk about. Besides enjoying the portrait all year round, we remember what we did that day, what it took to do some of that. So it's a blast.
I love that you said that. One of my taglines that I used and created years and years ago was creating memories through images and experience. And really, it's the experience part that is the most important, because if we can talk about relationship and talk about the personalities that we see in front of our cameras and talk about this moment in time, it could even be a baby, but we're talking about the new things that are happening at 6 months old or at a year old. And, we're talking about these things and we're speaking into that experience. And then when they see those images for the first time, that is what they remember.
Yes.
They remember the actual experience and how they felt during that time. And that's what they really want to see over and over again. And, it's hard for us as photographers to step back from the technique and all the, the lighting and the posing and all the things, and remove ourselves from that equation. But that's really not what they're buying.
No,
We get worked up about that, but that's not what they're buying. They're buying the actual experience, and they're buying that particular memory.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
I also love studying what the big companies do to kind of communicate their marketing. I look at Apple, for instance. A few years ago, there was this stuck with me. It's called Misunderstood. If you've not seen that, I'll put the link in the blog. But this kid, it looks like he's just wrapped up in his device and not paying much attention to anybody. But in reality, he's photographing or videotaping the family at Christmas time together, and then that's his gift to everybody. And it is so powerful, and very few words in it, just mostly music. And those are the things that, how do you take that kind of feeling and put that into your marketing and the messages that you have? It's no different than like how I feel like I'm passionate about why everyone should own a wall portrait. And I feel sorry for the people that want one and can't afford one, or I feel even worse for the people that don't even think about it and have no interest. And that's kind of like the problem we're trying to solve that the consumer doesn't know they have. It's that. And so I always kind of feel like, how can you say that in as few words as possible? And that's where maybe like live portraits, Suzette Allen does a lot of things like that. You can incorporate some of that video maybe into, if you do a direct mail piece, for instance, or even on social media, anything where you can pull up that image and have that app and have that pull up, and you can say so much. And use testimonials. I'm sure you do too. Testimonials are one of the strongest things you can use.
Yes, 100%. Um, and it's interesting that you said that you do that every single year. And going back to, I told you I called past clients, and that was one of the first things that we started doing. But now I'm going to give you guys a little script. One of the things after every family portrait session that I'm going to say to a client is, well, and there's two different things actually, but one's to get the next appointment booked. But the first thing is asking for referrals. And it's hard for us to ask for referrals. But I think when you start it with, I have loved working with you, and I know I would love working with your friends. I want to work with people just like you. Is there anyone that you can think of that would enjoy this experience? And just asking that question and making it part of your routine is just, you're not asking them to make you a list right there, but it's just to get them to start thinking of people in their minds. And we've already told them we love them and we want to work with people just like them. Okay. So that's key. And then the next thing that I want to say is, what are we in? This is June. I want to say, June was a great time for your family portrait session this year. And I would love it if we could go ahead and get you penciled in for this time next year. And it's just a simple thing. And it's, you mentioned looking at Apple and looking at some of these other companies. That's been something that's been really important to me along the years. Like, why do I return to a business over and over? How can I incorporate those things into my business? How do certain companies make sure that you return for business? And a lot of times that's going to be pre-scheduling you, your oil change, your dentist, your doctor appointments, whatever. And they tell you when you should come back, and you just say, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We do what we're told. And so I have found that incorporating those two things, A, referrals, grow, but B, just telling them this is the next time we should photograph you. And I just tell them, I'm going to go ahead and get you penciled in this at this time next year. Is that okay? Great. And then I schedule a text to go out to them the month before. So that would be May. I'm having to think about my months. But I schedule a text to go out in May that just says, hey, it's Lori Nordstrom. Can you believe it's already been almost a year since I've seen you guys? I'm sure the kids have grown. You can put some individual personality in there, but, can't wait to get you guys scheduled again. And when you put a plan like that in place, you are actually giving yourself permission and the responsibility to follow up with them. Yes. And that's what I love with all follow-up. Anytime we're following it, let's say we get a new inquiry and we reply back to them and have maybe a little bit of dialogue back and forth, whether it's email or messenger or whatever. And then all of a sudden they're gone. And then we, as the photographer, are like, oh, I don't want to bug them, or, oh, she ghosted me. I hear it all. And the truth of the matter is that what business tells us is that the person who has followed up or been in front of that person 8 to 10 times is the one that's going to get the business.
Yes.
And one of those exposures might have been the marketing. That might have been why they called you in the first place, or they might have been to your website. But we have to follow up. And so anytime I'm having dialogue with someone before it dies off, I want to get them on the phone. And so if it's not possible in that moment, I want to ask for permission. So I'm just going to say, hey, Mark, would it be okay if I follow up with you tomorrow? You're not going to tell me no. We've just had a conversation. And so you're going to say, yeah, sure. Okay. Okay, great. What's the best number to reach you? Yes. And I also always these days, I tell people, I will text you first. I'll let you know, I'm going to text you and let you know I'll be calling. And so I'll just send over a text next day, hey, Mark, we chatted a little bit online yesterday. This is Lori Nordstrom again. Is now a good time to call? Absolutely. And want to get you on the call. But giving ourselves permission to follow up and permission for that next appointment is, it's a game changer.
It is.
And that has really changed everything on the family portrait side for me to be really in control of who shows up on my calendar, is by just saying, hey, I should see you next year around this time. Can I go ahead and pencil you in?
That's absolutely.
All they can do is say no, right?
Yeah, it's the little things like that you do that make a difference. As we work on our referrals and things and networking with our better customers and the things that you can do, it is so important, the little things that you do that make a difference, and penciling people in and having them a year later ready and prepared. And I know, even talking to a lot of the photographers at Marathon that do a lot of family photography, one of the things that they do with their senior photography is they will say, hey, we photographed your high school senior. That makes you a VIP client of ours. Let's schedule your family session sometime between now and Christmas. And they get that on the book, and they do that right away. And by scheduling it, it ensures that they get in. And if they book, quite a ways in advance, they let them know, hey, I'll give you a call and a reminder a couple of weeks in advance. We'll do a clothing consultation or do whatever. But some people charge for that, or charge very little for that, or have something that the people pay so that there's value in it. But have you had any experience like that, doing that with seniors?
Yes, 100%. Every family gets a free family portrait session with a senior session. So it's part of the value add with the senior session. But one of the things that I've also found is it really helps to get rid of objections during the senior session, during the sale. And so two really common objections are, I don't want wall portraits of my senior. I have other little kids, so I don't want, a shrine to my senior. Or we might hear, she's the youngest and I did great big 8x10s of all the others. We've got them down the hallway. And so I want an 8x10 of her to match. And so either way, that family session in the fall, and that's something that I'll just say to mom right away is, first of all, we've already talked about it. So she knows that there's going to be a family session in the fall. Typically we schedule it in advance. I personally don't like to photograph the family on the same day as the senior. I know other people that works with, with what they do, but I prefer to let the senior have their day. And that's how I communicate it to mom, is we want this to be her day. We want it to be all about her, make her feel really special, have some really great memories from this. You're going to be included, but we want to have the whole family there when we do your family portrait session in the fall. That's going to be complimentary. That's part of the senior session process. And so we just tell, this is what everyone does. This is how it goes. We're going to schedule your free family session. So it's one of those, I say that a lot. Here's how this goes. We get to tell our clients how we do business, right? And, yes. And so that's part of it with the senior session. Now, when she might tell me, well, I've got great big 8x10s of all the other kids, and, this is our youngest, she wanted to come to you. I'm going to say, well, tell me about your older kids. Where are they now? And she'll tell me, this was in college, this one's married, whatever. Wow, it sounds like they've all really changed since their senior portrait session. Yeah, they sure have. Great. Well, when we plan your family portrait session sometime in the fall when you're all back together, I'm going to make sure that I update something and do something really special for each one of the older kids so that they have something unique and more, uh, to their personality today. Absolutely. Let's get that 8x10 up there of your daughter so that you've got all their senior pictures. But I want to do something really special for her. And we're going to concentrate on her during this time. And then when we do the family session in the fall, we'll make sure that we get something special and updated for each one of the older kids as well. And same thing if they're younger, we'll make sure that we do something really special and unique for each of the younger kids during your family session portrait time.
I love that. I'm
So,
writing
yeah.
that down. That is really good words. I love that. Yeah, and especially when you say they've all really changed, and that emphasizes time for another portrait.
Yep.
So, yeah, love that. Great idea. Now, you were talking about sales too a little bit. Tell me, when you do sales, what's your process? How soon after the session do you handle the sales, and is it in person? Do you project? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, of course, I've gone through all the phases. I started in the film days and then went digital really early on, went digital in 2000. And at that time, when I went digital, I called Gary Box because he was the first digital photographer I knew and said, okay, what do I buy? And one of the things on that list was a projector.
Mhm.
And so started projecting right away. And of course, years ago, we always heard, you have to show the sizes that you want to sell. Well, now we've got software that allows us to show the size to scale on the client's wall, and they can view that on their cell phone. They can view that on a laptop. They don't need to see it projected. And so I haven't been projecting for many, many years, but one of the things that I think is even more important that today is getting those wall snapshots for my clients. That's kind of a non-negotiable for me these days is, and used to back in the day, it would be something that I would suggest that they would send over a snapshot of their walls where they were considering hanging their portraits. And I would design a few things for them. But I saw the difference that made in my sales when people would actually do that. And so now it's a non-negotiable. I don't shoot a session unless I know where I'm going to be hanging those portraits. So that's part of the sales process is making sure that they understand that part of the process, that it's very important that I get to play interior designer for them. And I'm going to be creating some custom wall concepts for them. And so that is all done before the session even takes place. So I know what I'm shooting for, and they know all the hard work around what they're going to be buying. They're not choosing sizes. They're not choosing even the finishing to probably 95% of the time they get what I suggest. Every once in a while, I'll have a mom who really wants to, control something. And so she'll want to switch a frame or whatever. But I show completed concepts, no images in them, just showing them sizes and placement and what I'm suggesting. And it's not that they are always 100% to the exact inch on the size, or it might be that I change it up a little bit, but they're agreeing to a wall concept before the session takes place. And because of that, I do immediate sales. And what that means is I'm in the first phone call, I'm setting up appointments with them. I'm setting up you're going to send it over your images, your snapshots to me. I'm going to create some concepts for you. We're going to get back on the phone. We're going to get on Zoom, and I'm going to show you some of the concepts that I've come up with, and you're going to make your selections at that time. So we're choosing all the sizes, doing all the hard work. They're choosing which walls they're going to design for, or they're going to, choose my designs that I've created. And I do only create one design per wall because I'm not giving them options. I'm telling them this is what I see here and why, and painting a picture for them. And then they're making those selections. And then we are also setting the time for the session. And then I'm letting them know. And if you're not doing immediate sales, I would suggest scheduling your sales time in those, one of those 3 appointments. You're scheduling your consultation, your session, and schedule the sales time. Get that done and let them know, here's how this goes. Here's what's going to happen next. You'll be viewing your images and placing your order at this time. Let's go ahead and get that on the calendar now. I let them know and do let them know in advance. After your session, we'll take a few minutes to either get the kids out to the playground with dad or send them out to eat, or he can take them home. Some parents will bring a nanny if dad needs to be a part of the process. That's great too. But we make a plan for it is the point.
Yes.
And so, and letting them know that after their session, they will be seeing their images. And one of the things I've really enjoyed about that is, well, there's a couple things. First of all, it is a huge difference in your profitability as a business because you don't have all that time with images in between the session and the sale. But second of all, during the ordering appointment, I'm able to just, we're going to go through, you're going to see everything that was captured, and then we're going to start narrowing down and filling in some of those, spots that we've decided on. And so it's just really straightforward right from the very beginning. And during that first run through, I can send things to the trash. They don't know the difference. But then we're going to, get it a little bit narrowed down that first time, but then we'll go back through another time and start making some comparisons and, making some selections. But I love this process because they know that I just photographed them. And they also know what I and anyone else can do in Photoshop. They understand this, that's why they're coming to a professional. They know what the finished product looks like. They don't have to see it finished before they buy it. And I think that's a real mistake that so many photographers are making is, but they're buying the way it looks finished. No, they're really not. Like that's our ego.
Yes.
If we really are thinking about the client and what's best for the client, we're going to sell first. We're going to keep them in momentum. We're going to help them with those decisions. And, the best decisions are those quick decisions that when somebody just can make those decisions and feel really good about them and really confident about them, and they're going to feel confident as if we as salespeople are confident. And so I love the immediate sales process. There are very, very few times that I do not do an immediate sale anymore. So I love that. And
another one of your lessons learned in real life.
Yes.
What do you find for products too? Well, let me back up for a second. First of all, you know how photographers tend to overshoot. You can also, it's one thing to overshoot, but it's another thing to oversell or overshow, I should say. How many images do you typically show? I know when we do breakdowns, you have the whole family and then just mom and dad, just the kids, but what do you find? Is there a magic number? What do you find?
Well, it's another one of the bonuses to, and I'm the president of the Overshooters Club, believe me. But it's another one of the benefits to pre-selling is because I know exactly what I'm shooting for. And we do an outfit change and a location or background change for every wall that I'm shooting for. And that's one of the things that I tell them in the consultation process is, for each room that we photograph, you'll be changing clothes. And has actually answered a lot of objections. I used to get moms that would say, oh, I want to bring this cute Easter dress that grandma bought, and I want to bring this, and I want to bring this. And we have these 10 outfits and take all this time. And the kids were done with me in the whole process by the time we were finished. And then they wouldn't and I would spend all this time working on those images and they wouldn't purchase any of those, or they would want, oh, I'll take a 4x6 of this for grandma. That's kind of just how things go if we let the client control it. And so now if she tells me, I want to bring that cute Easter dress, great. Where are we going to hang that portrait?
Absolutely.
And if, no, I was just thinking about a little 4x6 of that. I'm sure grandma's going to love a snapshot from your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
The end,
Exactly.
and so the number of images really depends on the products that they've pre-selected. And that has really helped my overshooting because if I know we're shooting for this one wall and that's, she's like, we can't do more than this. My husband's going to flip out. Let's do this one wall. Great. We're going to do that one wall. I can do an album from one outfit with a family and one concept. I can still put an album together. And because you're right, we are going to do the breakdowns. We're going to do all the different, we're going to do mom with kids, dad with kids, mom and dad together, each kid individually, kids together. But we're going to do all that breakdown, even if we're shooting for one main look, main concept. And so I can still do an album and an image box, those additional products from that. But a lot of that we've already talked about on the phone. So I want to be planting those seeds right from the very beginning. And we're going to continue talking about those different products, first phone call, consultation call, throughout the session. And then, of course, during the sale, we can even add on, an album is a significant price point, but we can add on albums even then because it is just a yes or no answer. It's not something that they have to think hard about. And that's where I think, wall portrait sales fall. And we get disappointed as photographers because clients get there and can you put them online so I can go home and think about it? Or, I'm not sure what size would go there. I don't know where I'd put that. Or we make the mistake of putting particular sizes in our packages, and those particular sizes are not going to be right for everyone. So if we're not custom designing with the client, it's really hard to sell high end. And there's no right or wrong to this. It's just what's right for you and your business. I do really high-end profitable events. So even though it's an event, I can still do a good chunk of money from that day. And it's a different process. And so there's no right or wrong here. But if you're going to sell high-end and you're going to sell for the wall, this has been the best process for me, at least, is to have really great conversations right from the beginning, that first phone call, make sure that we're solidifying some decisions during the consultation call, getting those snapshots from them, from their walls, and following up with them. If I don't get them right away, following up, hey, waiting on the snapshots. I'm so excited to create for you. So excited to get some designs together for you. So continuing that conversation and that process, and then even talking about those things throughout the session. This is, going to be amazing in your living space. And I love the colors that are in the trees, this fall, and they're going to look so great in your living room, whatever. Like, we're tying it all together, and the sale is really done before they see their images. They're seeing their images and they're just plopping the ones they've already selected into the right spots.
And your enthusiasm and excitement carries through to your customer too, because if you're really excited and telling them, I can't wait to create for you, that makes them motivated too, obviously.
I hope so.
Yeah. Before we run out of time too, Lori, I wanted to ask you, so we've created these products for our customer. It's time for delivery. How do you deliver? Do you have them come pick it up? Are they in boxes, branded, package bags? What do you do?
Well, I deliver everything now. When I had my large studio I was there for 15 years and had an 8,000 square foot studio. And of course, we loved bringing people back in and made a big deal of them picking up. But even during that time, I offered installation. So if somebody chose for us to install, I would go to their home, deliver, and I actually had a installation partner. So, and it was just somebody that worked for a contractor in town. But he would meet me there, and I would pay his hourly wage plus a little bit, and he would do the installations for me while I got to stand back and be the art director. And but now I don't have that large studio. I have a very small studio space in a very small, tiny town, and do most of my work on location. And I probably bring people here into my little studio probably, I don't know, 3-4 times a year. It's not very often, but the space is here if we need it. So now almost everything I deliver, and we are still doing those installations for people as well.
Excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough, Lori, for being with us today. We're out of time, but is there anything else you wanted to add before we end this?
Well, you always know you're going to run out of time with me, Mark.
Yeah.
I have a long answer to every question.
All right. I'm the same way. That's why I never end on the time I want. But tell me, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
I am Lori Nordstrom on all the socials, and Yeah, that's probably the best way.
And you also offer business coaching. I'll put that in the link in the blog as well, but tell people where they can find, if they want to get and work with you on coaching, how do they get a hold of you for that?
Yeah, it's simplyblessed.life is the website name, and the website is not fantastic at the moment, but you can at least find me there.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, and I'm Mark Weber with Marathon Press. You can reach me at 800-228-0629, extension 283, or markw@marathonpress.net. Thank you again, Lori, and it's been fun. Let's do this again another time on another topic. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.